All In Sports Network. We love sports.
It is Thursday, January 23rd, right here on All In Horns, your daily fix for all things Texas Longhorns, brought to you by Rogue Sports Network. I'm Tanner Carlson. That is Jake Jimerson. You are watching us on YouTube or listening to us where all podcasts can be heard Tuesday through Saturday, dropping at noon, 5 days a week. We've got you covered for at least 30 minutes. Jake and I, we try to get these episodes down within that 30-minute time frame, and more times than not, we're more at the 45-minute to an hour-long range. Today's episode is going to be a little bit shorter for you, though. I do promise you we're going to get this one going here shortly, but we do have a very fun episode for you. It's going to be a quick one for you, but we're going to talk about this coaching staff for the Texas Longhorn football team being able to really retain their talent at the coaching positions. Also, you could say that for just about any coaching staff under the athletic program, whether that be women's basketball, men's basketball, baseball, what have you. Really, the only coaching changes that happen is whenever Chris Del Conte has to axe somebody and take in and hire somebody else. That's really the only time somebody is dropped, is whenever they're not performing adequately enough for the University of Texas standards. But we're going to talk about that, specifically Tashard Choice and the rumors of him possibly getting looked at NFL teams. And then we will have a discussion as well about what this Texas Longhorn defense is going to look like in 2025. We talked about the offense in yesterday's episode. If you have not listened to that and you'd like to hear our take on what the offense is going to look like in 2025, pause this video, go to yesterday's video and watch that one first, and then come back, pick up where you left off, and go into the Texas defense, because it's kind of a two-parter that we're doing this week, and we're excited about it, but very excited about the end of college football season, sad about it, but also excited about what's coming up in 2025 as well. So, Jake, with all that being said, you sent me something earlier before we get started in the episode about the least attractive qualities in a man. And let's just see where you check. Let's do never have I ever, Jake. Put your hand up. And then if I call something out that you do,
I feel like you should have to do this too.
Okay, fine. We'll both do it. Okay. Playing video games, collecting figurines, magic tricks. I don't do magic tricks.
I don't do magic tricks. Maybe I've done a card trick when I was like 10, but I'm not counting that.
I don't do magic. Online trolling and gambling. So some sports gambling. So
I was going to do the same thing you did with the finger, but I decided to keep it family friendly.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Apparently, only one of us does that here.
Hey, anyone listening to the podcast has no idea what you're talking about. So, but yeah, I thought that was funny. Those are the least attractive qualities in a man. So, in the comment section, are you an attractive male? Then, if not. And you're like Jake and I, and you're just dog ugly and revolting to women, join us in the comment section. We'll stand strong together, men. We'll stand strong. It must really suck to not have a hobby,
Yeah. My wife has come downstairs, which am married, by the way, not to brag, and has come down the stairs with me painting Warhammer 40K models while watching a game that I bet on. And then come down 30 minutes later, I've stopped painting and I've moved over and I'm playing games while watching a game that I bet on. So just checking them all off, and she comes down here and still loves me. So maybe I'm just that physically superior looking. This is what I'm going to tell myself.
It might be something else that's below the waist that's keeping her around. Who knows? But yeah, so anyway, I wanted to start off the episode with some fun for everybody real quick. But anyway, Jake, all right, getting into the business at hand, Texas Longhorns retaining their coaching staff. It looked as though, and there were actual legit reports from NFL scout or NFL reporters that the Dallas Cowboys were actually looking at two possible candidates for their vacant running back position coach, and that would be Tashard Choice and Oklahoma running back coach DeMarco Murray, both former players for the organization. So, but interesting enough that the Texas running back coach and the Oklahoma running back coach possibly getting interest from the Dallas Cowboys, their former NFL teams that they played for.
Yeah, and interesting from the standpoint of a team that doesn't have a head coach, which, by the way, from what I read, Choice would be more than likely not to deny that request, which says a lot about where the Cowboys are as an organization right now. But I
mean,
as a Longhorn and a Cowboy
clarify that he would deny that request as being interviewed for that position for the Cowboys.
Yeah, like he would not take the job.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, I would rather him stay at Texas. I think positional coaches, just real quick, I think positional coaches are way more important in college than they are the pros because of recruiting. And that alone I would rather Choice be with the Longhorns than with the Cowboys, because to me in the NFL, you can improve your position group for sure, but you can do that in college too. And the recruiting aspect of it is huge. And Choice is a great recruiter. So it's very obvious to me that you need Choice on this staff. He's been great on the recruiting trail for Texas. And so retaining him is definitely one of those key guys that you want to keep. And sometimes those positional coaches are the hardest ones to retain, because they want an opportunity to become a coordinator or a head coach or go to the NFL.
Yeah. And Jake, I did have this pulled up, but you know how the apps do, the everything app, they load it automatically for you. Like I had exactly what I wanted loaded up, and then it turned it on. Okay, I've got it back up now. Okay, so I had I quote tweeted a tweet or a post, an X post that had the 5 running backs of Coach Tashard Choices, like 2 years ago, the Bijan, Jaden Blue, Jonathan Brooks, Roshan, and Keelan Robinson all sitting on the bench side by side, one next to each other. And I quote tweeted it, quote posted it. If Jaden Blue gets drafted, Tashard Choice will have all 5 of these guys drafted in 3 years straight. Insane. So then an A&M guy, he commented saying, how have y'all held on to Choice? That guy is amazing. So actually smart.
Yeah. That's not where I thought this was going.
Yeah. So a Texas fan chimes in. He says he likes Texas and knows he can get the best backs he wants at Texas. I said, also know the guy aspires to be more than just position coach. He's learning from the best in the biz under Sark. He might want to be an offensive coordinator, but just to say it's not permanent that he might be at Texas forever for however long Sark is there. Some people are better than that, though. Coordinators always try to go be head coaches and fail because that's not what their calling was. If you have something good and perfect, there's no reason to change it. Right. But you don't know if you're going to fail at it unless you go out and do it. Like, I think that's where my issue is going back and forth with this guy. And I said, yeah, but you don't know unless you try. Coach Choice is not the type of guy to just settle where he's at. He's going to want to climb the ladder and at least know if he can make a run of his own program someday, as he should. He's not going to settle for being a running back coach at Texas for the rest of his career. And this guy was like, well, that's not settling to me. That's making it in life at the best job in America. That's where you start to lose me a little bit.
Well, and that's where
so you're telling me, if you're telling me that if the Alabama head coaching job came open and they were like, hey, Tashard Choice, you want to be the head coach at Alabama? He wouldn't take that?
Yeah. To me, that's where Texas as a fan base gets a lot of bad rap about the ego. To me, that's just a pure ego Texas post.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, it is running back coach wise. It is one of the best, probably the best, if not top 3, 5 at worst in the country as far as running back position, coaching jobs go. But if you're going to sit there and saying that's one of the best jobs in America, period, you're just not thinking like someone who wants to build their career. He's not an alumni of Texas. Right. So that really makes no sense. But yeah, I mean, I agree with you on this, obviously. I mean, and I want him to stay at Texas, but it's unrealistic to just think he's going to stay here forever. That if he was leaving for an offensive coordinator position at West Virginia, that's not an upgrade for him professionally, because it is. It's a chance to see if his own system can work.
If he had an offensive coordinator position open up, say at Oklahoma, I know they just hired their guys.
You got to use that one.
but or Texas A&M. You don't think that he wouldn't go to Texas A&M to be the offensive coordinator for Mike Elko and implement his own offensive scheme and system and run scheme that he wants, like, and recruit his entire offensive line and offensive staff, and not just focus on running backs specifically. Like, I know they're all together as a unit at Texas in terms of, hey, these guys' measurables are good. Oh, hey, I got this intel from so-and-so place. Like, go check them out, whatever it is. And that's like what it is in just about any successful program. But yeah, I mean, say Georgia Tech's head coaching job came open at 2, 3, 4 years down the line, and they offer Coach Choice a head coaching position at his alma mater. You don't think he's not going to be interested in taking that opportunity?
Yeah, you're crazy if you think that. That is when you need to check your Texas ego. And I get it. I have an ego with Texas, even after all the bad years. There's still that ego there to a point. But that to me is just like there's heat checks in basketball. That's an ego check as a fan. And you got to kind of step back and go, is what I'm saying really actually makes sense from a professional career standpoint?
Right. Exactly. And so, Jake, there's also, not to get into Dallas Cowboy talk, but DeMarco Murray as the running back coach for Oklahoma. Haven't heard word whether or not he's interested. Probably waiting and seeing, probably both waiting and seeing officially to see who the Dallas Cowboys actually hire as head coach, because you're not going to accept a position or anything of those lines if the head coach that they're going to be hiring doesn't want you as their position coach. So there's also that. So just kind of a wait and see approach for Oklahoma and for Texas when it comes to their position coaches. But it sounds like Tashard Choice not interested in even taking the interview at all at this point. So retaining staff, Jake, how important is that to the team's success? We're obviously reaping the benefits of it because you're getting guys and players to stick around more so in the portal than you do at other universities that have constant turnover at position coaches, because a lot of those guys, they don't transfer because it's not a good fit. They transfer because the coach and the relationship that they had with that coach is going somewhere else. And they're saying, well, he recruited me. He believes in me. I want to go where he's going because I think I thrive in the system in which he coaches at.
Diego Pavia, quarterback, is a prime example of that. John Mateer going to OU with Arbuckle. I know he really liked that Washington State program, but when the guy that runs your system leaves and that you're comfortable in, it makes sense to go with them. So there's definitely, something to that. But retaining staff is how important was PK to developing this defense and getting better every year? Does that happen if he leaves? I don't know. Probably not. They're probably not as good as they were this past season for sure. And so that retainment, especially of the key bigger positions, is really important. There's only a point to which retention is possible, right? It's just like when Texas has lost a couple position coaches under Sarkisian, when they've gotten either an offer to upgrade their career professionally, much like we just discussed possibilities with Tashard Choice. That happened for them, and they took that opportunity. Brennan Marion is definitely one that comes to mind. Or whether that be a Bo Jackson, who got an opportunity to go to LSU where he could bring his son in and play and attend the university right away. And
Bo Davis.
I don't know why I just said Bo Jackson.
Bo knows.
Bo knows. Bo Davis, going to LSU where it just makes too much sense for him just from a logistical standpoint. And so that, retentions is really important, but that doesn't mean if you lose one or two coaches, you did a poor job. A lot of the time it means the opposite. You did a really good job because they're getting these huge opportunities elsewhere. But keeping, especially like his hiring a PK was really smart because he got a guy who he felt wanted to just be a coordinator. And that has proven true to be a great hire because he's been able to retain him. That doesn't mean that teams aren't going to come knocking with head coaches opportunities for him. So to me, that's like one of the guys I look at is please keep him, give him raises, which is why part of the reason why Sark wanted a seat at the table to discuss not only a raise for himself, but almost more importantly, a raise to give to his support staff. which will not only allow more funding for analysts and things like that, but also retaining some of these guys that you would probably lose otherwise.
Yeah, and you're exactly right, Jake. And then you throw on top of that as well. You know, you get guys that want to be in the program and love the program for what it is, and then they become loyal to them, and then that's whenever those player relationships and that player development starts happening, and then you don't have to necessarily worry as much about the portal. And we talked about it earlier this week as well of you can maybe just not necessarily match incoming NIL deals, but then you can it makes it a little bit easier whenever you've got a position coach who got a freshman 3-4 years ago, and now they're getting poached by other teams and NIL deals. But they're like, hey, look, you've got a relationship already with so-and-so. Why not stick around? We can't necessarily match that NIL deal, but we can give it a little bit of a discount to where it's not such a big loss for you. And you're getting technically a raise here. And so I think that makes it make sense. But anyway, Jake, let's take a look at what the 2025 defense looks like going into next year. And similar to what we did in yesterday's episode, again, this is the time to pause it. Go back to yesterday's episode, look at what we did with the Texas offense in 2025. And this is what the Texas defense is going to look like in 2025. Starting at the defensive line, Colin Simmons as a sophomore, Colton Vosick as a redshirt sophomore, defensive tackle Justice Terry as a freshman, Travis Shaw, transfer from UNC, senior, defensive tackle Cole Bavard from Purdue, a senior, edge Trey Moore, senior, and then Ethan Burke, senior edge. So a kind of a mix of very young and experienced defensive line there. I think it's a really exciting defensive line. I'm very excited for what now deeper into the depth. We'll dive into that a little bit later, but very interested to see what that defensive line looks like. At linebacker, Anthony Hill, a junior, Leona Lafau, junior, Ty Anthony Smith, sophomore, defensive back, Kobe Black, a true sophomore, Manny Muhammad, a junior, Jalen Gilbo, a senior, Michael Taft, senior, Derek Williams, junior, and Jelani McDonald, a junior as well. So that'll be, I think that's it's a great mix of returning guys who have played valuable minutes, some young up and coming guys, some young studs that already have been solid and only going to get better, Colin Simmons. And then you got, a couple true freshmen that are going to be in the mix as well, the deeper you go into that depth.
Yeah, and they have options at secondary, by the way. I've seen talk that much like we started hearing about Barron, with Gilbo being his best position is corner. And there's talk of him moving to corner, or at least testing that out. And then maybe, I know they've cross-trained Mac at the true freshman corner from this year. That was a 5-star prospect they flipped from Florida. Cross-training him to star because they were already that confident in him as a corner. He's a guy who could maybe step into that star position for Gilbo, as well as Jelani McDonald is a guy they could look at to put in that star position who has that kind of athletic versatility. So there's going to be a lot of versatility with this defensive backfield. And that's why Michael Taft returning was so important, because it allows you to be much more flexible in how you cross train and mess with these guys, because you have that for sure fire safety heart of the defense back there in Taft. And then along the defensive tackles, one name that you have in notable names, I'm going to bump him up to he might start. I'm just going to go and throw the name out there, is Alex January. Is a guy I'm very excited about. Saw some playing time against Ohio State. Might be most remembered for drawing a personal foul penalty of getting Henderson to throw a hit at him after the play. I would love to know what he said to do that,
because he seems to be a pretty even keel guy, but he obviously upset him with something.
Even killed guys are the ones who talk the most crap. Sometimes you can appear even killed and just be laughing while saying the most ridiculous things. And so the defensive tackle group, I mean, I think it is more of a question mark than after last year, even though everyone was talking about it after last year. I was for sure on Broughton and Collins being studs. And they were. I think a lot of these guys could definitely be very good starters. I think Justice Terry could be an immediate stud. I think Alex January could be an immediate stud, but I'm not as sure on them as I was on Broughton and Collins. So to me, the biggest question mark on the whole defense is defensive tackle. But I think they're going to get 1 to 2 more guys, if not 3, in the spring transfer portal. If not from Ohio State or Notre Dame, if any of those guys transfer. And they will be fine at that position. It's just going to be interesting to see where it goes production wise, because you could see it increase from a production standpoint, just because they might not have the Collins or Broughton, but they might have more productive depth, that aren't just specialized. Like Bill Norton was specialized into just clogging lanes and run stopping. Justice Terry could be a very effective pass rusher, especially if they can put him out there on every down type of deal and not just be a specialized pass rusher. That's the big question for him, is can he stand in there and stop the run? And then January, how he develops. But there's still excitement for me at the defensive tackle position. And then the edge group, I'll just say it's the best edge group in the country. It's not particularly close. With the edges we listed, there's still more that could come in and rush the passer, whether that be a freshman in Lance Jackson, who's one of those 5-star studs coming in.
Yep.
This defense, to me, I would be surprised if they're not as good. Maybe not statistically as good as this one was last season, but in big games and big moments, I think they have a chance to be just as dominant.
I think they might be better than last year's team. The only spots I don't see, and I think the player development will get them there. I think the absence of Andrew Makuba is going to be felt, but I think Derek Williams can fill that role. I think Jelani McDonald can fill that role. I think Michael Taff is going to fill that role in terms of like leadership and whatnot. But I do think the Andrew Makuba, prospect is maybe not on this roster. But I do think, man, when you start looking at this roster and returning players in the front 7, I think the front 7 is going to be better in 2025 than it is going to be than what it was in 2024. And then you look at the amount of rotational guys, the options that you have in the secondary, and we haven't even touched on guys like Jonah Williams and Cade Phillips and things like that, 5-star, 4-star guys in the secondary at safety that you're going to be able to rotate in if you don't redshirt them, because I think if you probably can get away with the red shirt. Just depends on what promises were made in terms of playing time and red shirt and availability and whatnot. But Jake, speaking of red shirts, do you think of this number 1 recruiting class in the country, where are some red shirts that you might be able to I know this isn't on our doc, so if you're not prepared to make a statement on this, we can save it for another day. But in terms of future red shirts, anybody that stands out to you right off the get-go?
As far as red shirting like this upcoming season?
Yeah, like red shirting there. Like, we obviously thought, we wanted Arch Manning to play, but he red shirted and he didn't see the field in his freshman year.
Okay. Yeah. I definitely would want more time to prep for this.
Yeah.
That is a wild question to bring out of nowhere.
Yeah, I just thought about it. Yeah, but I just thought about it. But I could see, in terms of bodies, maybe a Bo Barnes. I don't know, but we might need him out there.
Yeah, Bo Barnes is one that it's just going to be how Bo Barnes is an interesting one, because he could come in and be right behind. I think you're going to have Spence behind Hill. And then I think you could put Barnes behind LaFau, and you could see him rotate in some. If he is developed enough. That Ty Anthony Smith being there too kind of adds a wrinkle, because Ty Anthony Smith is probably actually the one that's behind Hill most likely. So Barnes is definitely one where if he's not for sure going to be a contributor, I think that you more than likely would redshirt him. I think you're going to see a good amount of freshmen get a red shirt. Just looking across, Justice Terry, no. Jonah Williams, no, probably not. Lance Jackson,
I would say
even as loaded as this edge room is without him, probably not.
I'd say no. I think when it comes to certain positions, when you rotate guys in, it's so crucial to have enough bodies throughout the season to be ready to go.
Cade Phillips might be the highest ranked recruit I could see maybe.
Just because secondary and defensive back is so deep right now for Texas.
But if there's an injury or two, he's a guy that, I don't think they're going to be afraid to play early, depending how he looks, right? These are all guys. It's just based off initial thoughts of the staff behind him, because they know when a guy's coming in, like a Smith Orogbo is going to redshirt. He's an edge. He's a 4-star guy. He's ranked very highly at his position by most sites. But he's also 6'4", 220. That is a lot of redshirting sometimes is just giving the body time to develop.
You need that SEC body. You're not quite there size wise. Yeah.
Grayson Littleton, another defensive back that is probably going to develop into a stud. He's 6 foot 175.
Yeah.
That's probably going to be a red shirt to grow some muscle, things like that. Michael Terry, a 5-star. He's not putting a red shirt. He is 6'2.5" and 211 and fast as hell. They are going to find a way to put him on the field.
Yeah, even if that's just a kick return, even if there's not a spot on the offense for him. So anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there. Anyway, Jake, that's going to do it for our defensive look into 2025. We will obviously continue to talk about this upcoming roster in 2025. That's not the last conversation that we're going to have.
That's way too early.
Look at it. And so, but Jake, before we go, just a quick shout out tonight. Tune in, set your TV, record it if you have to. But tonight, women's basketball taking on number 17 Tennessee in a big time conference game. And so coming off of a huge blowout win over Maryland, take time in your night tonight, even if you've got to record it, to watch the women's basketball take on the Lady Vols of Tennessee and in Austin.
Yeah, I mean, if you're depressed about the basketball team, which, by the way, just so listeners know, if the basketball team was good this year, we would be doing more coverage on them, more instant reactions. And if that's something y'all want, put it in the comments. But covering 26-point losses isn't fun.
Yeah.
And I don't think people really care or want it.
We will mention it, but they also, they coming off of a Mizzou game, but also they play Texas A&M on Saturday. If you really want to know, we'll talk about it.
Yeah, we will talk about it. It's just right now they have been, not only the results are bad, watching them is torture.
It's painful.
And I don't think many Texas fans are watching them very much right now. I'm still doing it, suffering through it for the little that we have talked about them. But with that said, this women's team is worth watching. They are worth supporting. There is no questions of effort or schemes. That is all there. And as this season goes down the stretch, it's something that we're probably going to talk about more and more, especially come tournament time. And I'm really excited, especially that win over Maryland. I mean, that took any doubt of the mind after that South Carolina game out. That's their best win, most impressive win of the season. And they've had some good wins, but that was impressive.
That's against the top 10 team, and they won over by 38 points. Yeah. So a nearly 40-point game. So
and led by up to 40.
Yeah. So, all right, Jake, that's going to do it for today's episode. Again, tune in to the ladies tonight as they take on Tennessee. This is your daily fix for all things Texas Longhorns right here on All in Horns, brought to you by Rogue Sports Network, Monday through Saturday, dropping at noon. So don't forget to set that little alarm there at the bottom of your screen if you're on YouTube or wherever podcasts can be heard. I'm Tanner Carlson. That's Jake Jimerson. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, hook 'em.
All in Sports Network. We love sports.